chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of material contamination, one can understand the signs of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of a spiritual realization. But one should recognize the difference between activities of body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that he is not the body.
Continue.
In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all this material manifestation. Now, in this chapter 9, the glories of Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anusuyave is in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately because they are envious of Krishna. Their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotee of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial.
So here, Anusuyave is the qualification required to understand this knowledge. We were discussing in a previous class that how if one is envious, can one hear the glories of the person whom one is envious of? No, very difficult. So here, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam are all glories of the Supreme Lord. So if one is envious of the Supreme Lord, very difficult to hear. Then what to speak of understanding? Not at all possible. So therefore, that is the first qualification to understand the spiritual knowledge. So what is the cause of envy? Yes, one thinks of enjoying separately from Krishna. One tends to become competitor to Krishna. One is competing with Krishna. Krishna is supreme enjoyer. The living entity also wants to become the enjoyer. So that is envy. Okay, so amongst devotees, what could be causes of envy? Or how that envy manifests amongst devotees?
When we do some unhealthy competition between devotees.
So what is meant by unhealthy competition?
Like if somebody is very good in some skills and he is able to do good preaching or presentation, so in that way we sometimes do unhealthy competition.
Okay, yes, so that's the root cause of envy. So there is comparison. So unhealthy comparisons. So when one thinks that somebody has something more than what I have, then one becomes envious. Vittal Prabhu?
In similar line, that para utkarsha sarnam. So if actually if somebody is in kitchen and if somebody is in preaching, they don't have a problem with each other. But a preacher has a problem with another preacher because if he is getting more boys or some similar kind of
Comparison.
comparison.
Correct. Thank you.
In one lecture, Rajaram was mentioning 3 stages how it develops. He's telling that first it starts with insecurity, then competition, and then finally it becomes envy. Initially start with the insecurity in the heart.
Right, so but again, basically the root cause is comparison, correct?
Comparison.
Yes.
Majority of the time, it's not that we are envious of the quality, we are envious of the results that comes out of those qualities.
Correct.
So
So basically it is all the fruiter mentality. Fruits, who's getting more fruits?
according to my practical in life situation, when someone deals with us improperly, and we think that this person is not, matlab, not mine or not something, is
Mhm.
separate. At that time, that we get that envy and all that.
Okay, so thinking in terms of I and mine, bodily conception. Yes. Hmm? Right. Okay, so how does, so when one becomes envious of,
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु, किसी को आवाज सुनाई दे रही है क्या?
नहीं नहीं
पावर नहीं है, पावर
Hare Krishna, Hare
पावर
Krishna.
नहीं है अच्छे से.
You can hear now?
यस प्रभु जी.
Okay. Huh? Right, so trying to pull him down. Again the same problem. Voice. So one tends to pull the other person down because one thinks, oh, he's getting more name, more fame, so let me find some faults so that I can pull him down. So that's one of the significant symptoms or effects of enviousness, envy. So one tries to find faults. What else? Wait, let others also speak. Huh? What are some other symptoms, effects, consequences of envy?
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी. प्रभु जी,
Okay,
whenever
let us hear some Shastric examples. Then it becomes very clear what will be the effect. Give some Shastric examples of envy. Huh? Okay, Kaikeyi and Mantara. Okay, so Mantara, what was the result of that?
I mean, a lot of Ayodhya had to undergo so much of destruction, basically.
Okay, there was a lot of destruction. Huh? Okay, Duryodhan, he was envious. So what happened?
He got lost his life and kingdom also.
He lost everything. Huh? Gandhari was envious of whom? Okay, she became envious of Kunti because she had children, she did not have children. And then what happened? What was the result? Okay, gave birth to a child who was envious. Okay. Yes, a good pastime to remember on Srivas Thakur's appearance day. Gopal Chapal and Srivas Thakur. So, what was the result of that? So, what was the result, consequence? Okay, he kept all those things for defaming Srivas Thakur. And what was the consequence of that? What he got? Leprosy, yes. Gopal Chapal had to suffer leprosy, and so much so that later on, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Kulia, and then he was delivering so many people, but Gopal Chapal went there requesting the Lord to deliver him from the suffering of leprosy. Mahaprabhu said, no, this is only the beginning of suffering. How will you tolerate when you go to the Kumbhipak hell? So Mahaprabhu
Hare Krishna, no sound Prabhu.
Sound is not coming. Hare Krishna.
Amoga, he was envious of? Yes, Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The result was? What he got? What he got? Cholera. He got cholera and he was about to die. But Mahaprabhu, seeing his connection with Sarvam Bhattacharya, he relieved him of the suffering. Ramchandra Khan, what he did? Yes, envious of Haridas Thakur. What was the result of that? What happened to Ramchandra Khan?
Hare Krishna, no sound. Hari Hari. Hare Krishna.
So if somebody is very envious and does a lot of harm, then not only he may be destroyed, but all those connected with him also may be destroyed. Mhm. Okay, so in this way we find so many examples, Gopal Chakravarti and Haridas Thakur, and so many examples of envy. So we find disastrous consequences of envy. So forget about understanding the Supreme Lord. So then when one is envious, one has to go through so much of suffering and disaster. Okay, solutions. What are the solutions for envy? Yes. So trying to appreciate. So especially trying to appreciate the person one is envious of. Very difficult. Easy to say, but very difficult. If one is envious of someone, to appreciate that person. But then one has to go through that austerity of trying to find the good qualities. Huh? What else? Yes, by serving that person. And of course, in general also, because material world means there is envy. Prabhupada writes in 1.1.2 purport, in the material world, everyone is envious of everyone else. This is the standard of the material world. Everyone is envious of everyone else. What is the proof of that? What is the proof that we are envious of others? We are okay, we are all there in the material world, no doubt. Huh?
As soon as our sense gratification is hampered, or as soon as somebody gets a little more sense gratification than us, then we become insecure about it.
Correct. So how much one is interested in one's own sense gratification. Now that shows how much one is envious. So, yes, so what are solutions? We're discussing solutions. Okay, glorify, serve, what else? Okay, we can give gifts. What else? Okay, making conscious effort to do something good, serve, glorify. Yes, bro. Forgiveness, ठीक है, but okay, if one has done some offense, then yes, one should ask for forgiveness. Okay, that's correct.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, write all his positive qualities where? Acha, okay. Make friendship, okay. Okay. Yeah.
We have to think where I am Dasanudas. I am the servant of Father Vaishnava. Like-
Okay. Right. So this proper philosophical understanding is important. So the philosophical understanding that ultimately Krishna is in control. Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. So Krishna is in control. Somebody has some good qualities which I don't have, or I may have some qualities which others don't have. Who's creating all this? So Krishna is creating everything. Krishna knows perfectly whom to put at what place. So therefore, if one understands that how Krishna is the controller, then there can be Shanti. That is why that is peace formula. So everyone knows Krishna is controller, Krishna has given somebody some good qualities, Krishna has given something less, something more, but Krishna is in control. So once one understands that, one can be satisfied. And nobody said the most important thing. What is it? How to get rid of envy? Okay, prayers. Yes, that's also important. Yes, offering prayers to the Lords to purify one. Huh? Chanting the holy name. That is the first, that is the most potent medicine to purify, right? That is the ultimate medicine. See, what is most important is forgotten. That is taken for granted. वो तो हो जाता है, हो जाता है. That is what, no, that is what, no, that will take. See, we minimize the importance of the holy name. We are minimizing the importance. No, that is the ultimate solution for purification of all the anarthas. Okay, fine. So here Krishna is telling, I'm giving you this knowledge because you are non-envious. Okay, let's read this. Please read.
The majestic aspect of the Lord as the object of worship suitable for his servant and the excellence of that pure devotee are described clearly in the 9th chapter. Bhakti is superior to karma, jnana, yoga, and the other process. As described in the 7th chapter, such a bhakti is either pradhani bhuta, described in the 7th chapter,
Or
or
Kevala.
kevala.
So everyone knows what is Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti? Yes, mixed devotional service. Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra, Yoga Mishra. Kevala is pure. Okay, continue.
And amongst the types of bhakti, the supreme position of Kevala Bhakti, which is extremely powerful, not dependent of purity of heart or other elements like jnana, has clearly been shown. The 9th chapter begins to speak about the power of the Lord, require the knowledge in order to perform that pure bhakti, Kevala Bhakti.
Okay, so that is Aishwarya Gyan, the powers of the Lord.
The Gita is the essence of the all scriptures, and essence of the Gita is the middle 6 chapters. The middle of those 6 chapters, the 9th and 10th chapter, is the further essence of the 6 chapters.
Okay, so this is middle of the middle. So the 9th and 10th chapters especially, therefore it is the essence of the essence. So therefore they're very important.
In the 3 verses, the Lord phrases what he will be describing in the chapter. The jnana, which gives the liberation described in the 2nd, 3rd, and other chapters, is guhya or secret. The knowledge which I revealed in the 7th and 8th chapter, which is suitable for attainment of me. The method of knowledge bhakti by which Bhagwan is known is guhyatara, more secret.
Okay, so the jnana which gives liberation, 2nd, 3rd chapters as we discussed. What is described? 2nd, 3rd chapters? Yes, the knowledge of Atma, the knowledge of Brahman, and how to achieve liberation by Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, all that. So all that is Guhya Jnana. And 7th and 8th chapters is describing the process to achieve the supreme. That is called Guhyatara. Then
in this chapter, I'll speak you the knowledge about Kevala or Shuddha Bhakti, which is by far Guhyatama, most secret. Gyan is defined as that by which something is known. Thus, Bhakti is called Gyan, since by Bhakti, Bhagavan is known. By the word Gyan or knowledge, one should understand that it means only Bhakti, not the well-known Gyan mentioned in the first 6 chapters.
Okay, so in the first 6 chapters, wherever Gyan was used, it referred to what?
Gyan.
What Gyan that referred to? Not exactly Sambandha Gyan. What is it? What is it? So basically the knowledge of matter and spirit. The difference between matter and spirit. That was the meaning of Gyan in the first 6 chapters. But now in the middle 6 chapters, wherever the word Gyan is used, it refers basically to Bhakti. The knowledge of Bhakti, which gives rise to the knowledge of Bhagavan.
In the second verse, by using the adjective avyayam or indestructible, it must be understood that this knowledge is beyond the gunas. And it is bhakti which is beyond the gunas, not the gyan mentioned earlier, which is in sattva gun. In verse 3, word dharma means only bhakti as well. I will teach this most secret bhakti to you, to one who is not hostile or selfish. Anusuyave. This indicates that there is a rule that bhakti should only be taught to one who is not selfish or inimical. I will teach you this bhakti, gyan, culminating in direct realization of the me, vijnana sahitam, by which you will be freed from rebirth or freed from all obstacles of bhakti. Ashubha.
Okay. Somebody else can do the lecture on this verse, Prabhupada's lecture.
Jnana, this knowledge, most confidential knowledge. It is not sentiment. Vijnana, Sahitam. It is sense. Science. Sorry. Just like in scientific knowledge, you must know theoretically and practically. Not only that, you simply know that so much oxygen, so much hydrogen produces water by mixing. That is theoretical. You have to make water by mixing these two chemicals. That is practical. Jnana means theoretical knowledge and Vijnana means practical knowledge. So we have to do it practically. Not that I have read Bhagavad Gita, so I have become a devotee. No, you should practically demonstrate in your life that you are actually devotee. That is called Vijnana Sahitam.
Okay, so there is theoretical and practical. So Srila Prabhupada very often says that devotional service is a science. So you're also saying it is a science. So this is the example of science Prabhupada is giving over here. Hydrogen plus oxygen gives water, and that applies everywhere. Whoever does that experiment, it applies. What is another example Prabhupada gives to prove that bhakti is a science? Yes, 2 plus 2 equal to 4 applies everywhere. Everywhere it is the same. So that is how bhakti is a science. So if one practices according to terms and conditions, rules and regulations, then the result is certain. And so therefore, if one does not follow the proper procedure, then you can't expect the result. It is a science. That is the meaning of science. It's not that we can do anything and still will get the result. So at least in science laboratories, they do manipulation, right? You see, yeah, everyone does that, correct? In all science laboratories, everyone does manipulation to get results. But in bhakti science, you can't manipulate. One can do, but one can cheat the whole world. One cannot cheat Krishna. One can try. Of course, so many people try so many things. Just like yesterday we came to the examination, there was no invigilator. You believe in the camera, but there is one camera who's always awake. That camera, who can escape? Right within the heart, camera is there. So one may think, oh, this camera, useless. I can do my own things. Okay, one can try. But what with this camera? I was invigilating one Bhakti Shastri exam in one place. And actually, I have quite a few experiences, but anyways. So there was one devotee, very senior, quite a senior devotee actually. Yeah. So I was walking up and down the hall. So he had got some chits of paper, something he had got. So when I used to go behind, he used to see. So he didn't know that I was behind, but I was turning in front and looking this way. He was thinking I've gone behind. So just see that. In one place, it was the hall was a little congested. So one devotee, so I was sitting like this in the chair. Everyone was sitting down and writing. So I was sitting. So sometimes I was standing, sometimes I was sitting. So in any case, this devotee, he sat behind me. So I thought, okay, it's a little congested. So I thought that's why he sat there. So I was sitting, and then some devotees, they finished writing and they were going out. So one devotee was going out. So he came to me and whispered in the ear, just see behind. So then as soon as I saw behind, this devotee had the book right open in front of him. It's fully open. I was shocked. I was thinking this height of boldness. So anyway, so we saw that. Ah. So we said, very nice. This is closed book exam, not open book. So we peacefully sent him home. Go and write open book at home. So one is writing Bhagavad Gita, but one does not know that there's Paramatma watching. So Bhagavad Gita is talking about Atma Paramatma, right? Right? That is what Bhagavad Gita is talking about. But as he's writing the exam, there is no realization that there is Paramatma. You understand the difference between theoretical and realized knowledge? This is the difference. So he's writing theoretical knowledge about Atma and Paramatma, but there is no realization. Therefore, he feels that he can copy because he fails to realize that there is Paramatma watching what he's doing. There is no realization. This is the difference. So we all know that story, anyway, that is about Paramatma, the Gurukul teacher who gave a mango to everyone to eat. So, but the point is that here, as Prabhupada is describing here, so simply the theoretical knowledge is not sufficient. So once a person came to Srila Prabhupada and was sort of boasting that I can recite all the verses of the Bhagavad Gita in 45 minutes. Prabhupada said, oh, that's very nice. But can you live even one verse of the Bhagavad Gita? So that is all easy. Memorizing the verse of Bhagavad Gita, one can memorize purports also. So many things one can do. But then, The real understanding of the Gita is how much one is able to practice the knowledge in one's life. And that is what Prabhupada is saying here. So we have to do it practically, not that I have read Bhagavad Gita, so I become a devotee. No, you should practically demonstrate in your life that you are actually devotee. That is called Vijnana. Practically demonstrate in your life that you're. So that is the real test. How much one is able to demonstrate in one's life, how much one is able to practice the principles of the Gita. And the test very often comes when one's integrity is tested, when one has a chance to do something wrong. But even when one has the chance, one does not do it. That is the test of one's integrity. How one is determined to follow the principles of the scripture at any cost. So, and very often that is when one fails the test. When one has an opportunity to do something wrong and one thinks one can escape. Then one thinks, chalta hai. But that is the test. So one who has that realization, then yes, then he will be ready to practice at any cost. Whatever may be the situation. Because there is realization. Because one knows that I have to practice the knowledge practically in my life because this is what is pleasing to Guru and Krishna. So theoretical knowledge, so many people may have. So many people may know the Shastras as we were discussing the other day. Somebody may do PhD also. All that is possible. But then the real test is how much one is able to do things practically. And as we discuss these points, actions speak louder than words. So one may speak so many things, but then the real thing is the action, how one acts. So the title of the section is Qualifications and Disqualifications for Hearing. So here the first qualification that is mentioned is non-enviousness. Non-enviousness. Okay, now let's go to the second verse. Rajavedya Rajagoyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. Okay, please read the first two paragraphs of the purport.
This chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the King of Education because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. Among the principal philosophers in India are Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yajnavalkya, Shandilya, and Vaishvanara. And finally, there is a Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. So there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now the Lord says that this ninth chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of Vedas and different kind of philosophy. It is the most confidential because confidential or a transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments. politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities, but there is unfortunately no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul.
So Rajvidya Rajaguyam. So Rajvidya, the king of all knowledge, because this is the best of all knowledge, the knowledge of pure devotional service. So even amongst, so forget about material education, politics, sociology, and all that, but even amongst the spiritual sciences or the philosophies, so many different philosophers are there. Even amongst that, the best knowledge is the knowledge of devotional service. Therefore, it's called Rajavidya, the king. Now, the next thing is Rajaguyam, most confidential knowledge. So this is the most confidential knowledge. Knowledge of the spirit soul, the difference between body and the soul. So in the next paragraph, Prabhupada is explaining how there are so many different philosophies about the soul. Sometimes people are under the impression soul is different from the body, and that when body is finished or one is liberated from the body, soul remains in a void, becomes impersonal, but actually that is not the fact. So many different misconceptions about the soul. Soul merges into the super soul and so on and so forth. So, but then, okay, that is all fine. But then somebody may say, but at least Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita has been distributed in millions, right? Anybody knows exactly how many millions have been distributed? Okay, so whatever it is, so millions of books have been distributed. Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, millions have been distributed. Then what's confidential? Huh? Bolo? Understanding that? Okay, so what understanding is confidential? You're not the body or soul, that is confidential. About bhakti. No, here Prabhupada is talking about you, the soul, no? Here, just now we read, Prabhupada is talking about the soul. That is a confidential part of knowledge. You read the next paragraph. In the very beginning, the Lord says this body is perishable and that soul is not perishable. Antavanta ime deha nityas yokta sharirna. That is a confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that spirit soul is different from its body. So this is confidential. Everyone knows, no? Even new devotee knows. Right? In device also it's taught, no? You're not body or soul. Then what is confidential? Huh? Ah. How many of us can confidently say that I have realized I'm not body, I'm spirit soul? At least I am not realized. That much I can say. Maybe some of you have realized that, I don't know. In kitchen you get good realization, right? Huh? So why this basic fundamental realization that I'm not the body, I'm spirit soul? Today Mahavir Prabhu also was speaking, no, about bodily conception of life, bodily misconception. So this is like ABCD, correct? ABCD of spiritual knowledge. I'm not body, I'm spirit soul. Then why this ABCD is also so difficult to understand? No, that is only false ego. Not realizing that I am spirit soul, that is called false ego. हाँ? कुछ सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है. ये बैकग्राउंड म्यूजिक बहुत ज्यादा है.
Well, that is because so much of covering, we describe no ignorance in three layers, three varieties. That of smoke and fire and all that.
अच्छा.
So because of so much of ignorance from so many years, they to their that same thing.
Okay, so there is ignorance since time immemorial that is covering the jiva, and therefore this realization, the simple realization that I'm not the body, I'm spirit, soul is very difficult. It's most confidential. Okay, so now the next question arises. So then, okay, it is most confidential. So is there some way one can realize this? What are the ways to realize this confidential knowledge? Vittal?
In second chapter, first verse, last part, where Prabhupada writes that when one performs service, that means when one performs selfless service, so that means without like keeping fruits for oneself, then one can realize that.
Okay, good point, good point. Somebody wants to add something? Okay, there is one purport where Srila Prabhupada has given the answer how one can realize this spirit soul, even though it is very difficult. Which was? Second chapter, 29th verse. Yes. Read the last paragraph of that purport. Okay, second last also you can read.
The easiest process of understanding.
Some people.
Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the super soul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of the magnitude. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the super soul, the atomic soul, their respective functions and relationships, and all other major and minor details.
Okay, it is very difficult, Prabhupada is writing. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands position of super soul and the Atma and all that.
And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul and who is able to describe the position of soul in different aspects.
Okay, so and it is even more difficult. So very difficult to even find a person who has proper theoretical understanding of the difference between Atma and Paramatma. And this is even more difficult to find someone who's acting on that platform and deriving benefit from that. That means he is practically living on that platform.
But if somehow or other one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of pure duty and by no other way.
So there are 3 points that Srila Prabhupada has described. How one can realize this very confidential knowledge. What are 3 points? Yes, accept the statements of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So first of all, one is to accept everything what the Bhagavad Gita is saying. Not accept some statements and reject some ardhakukutnyai, not like that. Accept everything what the Gita is saying. Second, yes, penance, austerities in this life or in the previous life. So one has to practice austerity. So therefore, we are practicing some austerities, giving up sinful life and following the various rules and regulations of devotional service. So that is all the penance, the austerities by which one can get purified. So the more one gets purified, the more one can realize this knowledge. But the ultimate is what? Yes, the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. So ultimately that realization comes by grace, mercy. Divyagyan Hriday Prakashito. So ultimately, one has to attract the grace of Guru and Krishna. So therefore, the more one attracts the grace by performance of devotional service, by trying to please them, that is how this realization will actually be possible. Otherwise, one can keep on reading and studying and doing all that. But if one is not attracting the grace of Guru and Krishna, then the knowledge will simply remain on the intellectual platform. It will remain on the intellectual platform. Then one will not be able to practice that knowledge in one's life. Or as Prabhupada is saying, one will not be able to gain benefit from that knowledge. When one will get benefit? When one practices. So one will be able to practice and derive benefit when one is able to live on that platform. And that is only possible when, through causeless mercy, one is able to practice. Otherwise, not so easy. Therefore, Raja Guhyam, it will remain very confidential. One can give lectures to others, one can very elaborately speak on all the subject matters, give systematic presentations and mesmerize people, do so many things one can do. All that one can do. But how much one has really, one is able to practice that, that is only possible by grace. Because time immemorial, we have been in the bodily misconception. So it's not so easy to give it up. Okay, so that is Rajaguhyam. Next is what? Pavitram. Okay, so read the next paragraph. This knowledge.
This knowledge is the purest form of all activities as explained in Vedic literature. In the Padma Puran, man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reactions. For instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, then it flowers and bears fruits. And when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results or the fruit of that sinful action are still to be enjoyed. There are sins which are still in the form of a seed, and there are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruit which we are enjoying as distress and pain.
Okay, so this is about sin, papam, and this is of course discussed in detail in the Nectar of Devotion, so we're not getting into those details. Prabhupada is quoting further ahead from the Padma Puran, aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijan phalonmukam kramayineva praliyata Vishnu bhakti ratatmana. So all these are the various stages of the cycle of sin. Okay, so everything begins with avidya, ignorance, then there is bijam, the sinful desire seed, then there's papam, one performs a sinful activity. The result of that is aprarabdham. And from aprarabdha, there are two effects, there are kutam and prarabdha. And that's how the cycle continues. So, only by the practice of devotional service are all stages of the cycle of sin totally destroyed. Only bhakti is able to do that. Therefore, it is pavitram. So, as we know in the beginning of the 6th canto, also there is a discussion between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami, how one may perform the other processes like karma kanda, jnana kanda. So, one may perform the other processes and the results of the sinful activities may be destroyed. The results. But what is not destroyed is, yes, the tendency to perform sin. That is not destroyed. So the tendency to perform sin is only destroyed by the practice of devotional service. And of course, all the other stages are also destroyed. So therefore, devotional service is called pavitram. So the next is uttamam. So you can read further down after that aprarabdha phalam papam. After that, Prabhupada is writing, therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong and it is called Pavitram Uttamam. Okay, read.
Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong, and it is called Pavitram Uttamam, the purest. Uttamam means transcendental. Tamas means this material world or darkness, and Uttam means that which is transcendental to material activities. Devotional activities are never to be considered material, although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like ordinary men. One who can see and is familiar with devotional service will know that they are not material activities. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material modes of nature.
Okay, so that is Uttamam. So rising above Tamas, Uttamam. So the material activities are all under the influence of the lower modes, and devotional services, Uttamam, that is transcendental. So that is about Pavitram Idam Uttamam. The next is Pratyaksha Vagamam, and that is the effects of devotional service can be directly perceived. So read the next paragraph.
It is said,
you can pass. Yeah, behind.
It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived. And we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, in course of chanting without offenses, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. This is actually sin. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional service as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure.
So this means of Pratyaksha Vagamam. Aksha means one can see. One can actually see, perceive the effects of devotional service directly. So as Prabhupada is saying that anyone who chants, then one can see the effects, one can experience the effects. And I think so all of us have that experience, right? That is why we're still sitting here, because we all are experiencing some effects of the practice of devotional service. And so therefore, Prabhupada is especially saying chanting without offenses, then one feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. So regarding this, a few more details we will just discuss, but we'll just finish the main part of this purport. And then to explain this, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Narad boy. So how Narad boy, he associated with the Bhaktivedantas and then he got the knowledge from them. And so directly he could perceive the effects of devotional service in his life. And of course, we ourselves are examples for that, and we see around so many times. I mean, so many devotees right from the beginning of the movement, all the hippies and so many people by the practice of devotional service, such major transformation in their lives. Okay, next is dharmyam. So then Prabhupada writes about dharma. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshaje. Religious people generally do not know that the highest perfection of religion is the attainment of devotional service. So, and then he says, this process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This is also confirmed in the Vedic literature. Acharyavan Purusho Veda, one who's in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization. It just reminds me, just yesterday I was reading, when Srila Prabhupada and his disciples went to Surat, Giraj Maharaj's book. So there he explained there was one person, Gujarati person, He was 80 years old and appeared to be very poor, ragged clothes. And so one evening when Srila Prabhupada was giving darshan, so this man came. And so devotees were wondering, oh, who's this person? All ragged clothes, old. Why is he come here? And so Prabhupada gave some small talk, and after that, this man, he took out a check of 1,111 rupees and became life member. So the devotees were surprised. "Arey, man looks so poor and he became life member." And then after some days, so poor, illiterate, nothing. And then after some days, the man came once again and he gave a donation of another 500 rupees. This is big amount those days. This is in the early 70s. And so the man, then he told Srila Prabhupada that actually, so he wants to practice devotional service, and family members are not so favorable. But any case, so whatever little money he tries to get from his sons, so every time he gets little money, he comes and gives. So that was how he was coming and giving. And so then later on, this man, he became initiated. He got initiated by Srila Prabhupada. And the name is also mentioned, I don't know. And so then he came to Juhu, and then he started serving in Juhu. And then he left his body in the Association of Devotees at 93 years old. So that's how, so that's what Prabhupada is making the point, that one who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization. So, no education, no knowledge as such from a spiritual perspective or material perspective, but still came in contact with Srila Prabhupada, achieved perfection. And so that's how the process of devotional service is very powerful. And anyone who sincerely takes up the process, then there are no pre-qualifications required. The only qualification actually that's required, Nectar of Devotion mentions, is what? What? Many times Prabhupada writes, only one qualification. Somebody said it, what? Yes, sincerity. The only qualification required is sincerity. That's the only qualification. There's no other pre-qualification required. So if somebody is sincere according to one's capacity, so this old man, he doesn't have much capacity, but still according to his capacity, he's extending himself. Whatever little he has, he's giving, he's coming. So even in that old age. So that's the only qualification required, sincerity. And so all these other Western devotees also, many of them not very educated, qualified, didn't have a great pious background or nothing like that. But then, just by coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada and serving Srila Prabhupada, what a transformation! Not only they got transformed, but then they were helping hundreds and thousands of other people get transformed. If you just read that section of the book when Srila Prabhupada and the devotees went to Surat, now what an amazing scene. So amazing. So there would be thousands of people, literally thousands of people, to see these Western sadhus. So Giraj Maharaj writes that how when they were doing Harinam Sankirtan in the streets of Surat, so during the Harinam, every devotee would be garlanded with 15 to 20 garlands. What was the qualification? Prabhupada is writing here, Acharyavan Purusho Ved. That's the qualification. So even though they must have committed so many sinful activities and whatnot, but still by coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada and following him, they became worshipable. And these devotees would have so many garlands, and then they would obviously take off the garlands and throw them, and people would be mad to catch them. Mahaprasad of these devotees. And every few blocks, people would wait and do aarti for these devotees. So, what a transformation. Just by coming in contact with the Acharya and sincerely agreeing to follow. Of course, the austerities they went through, that is also unimaginable. So in some places they got that type of welcome, but then not always and everywhere. So initially when they came to Bombay, and then some of them were sent to Delhi. So much austerity. So even in Surat, even when they were staying in Surat, so he writes that how they were suffering from so many illnesses. Dysentery and fever and so many difficulties. But because even though they were going through all those difficulties, because they stuck to Srila Prabhupada, because of that, they became glorious. They became worshipable. So that is the important principle. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. So if one simply sticks to the Acharya, has full faith in the Acharya's words and instructions, then life becomes glorious. Without any pre-qualification. Nothing is required. Just by sticking to the Acharya's instructions, following, they become so glorious. Right. So, and then one can perceive the effects of devotional service. Okay, and the last part, let's read. Susukam kartum avyayam. Okay, please read the last part. The process of devotional service.
The process of devotional service is very happy one. Susukam. Why? Devotional service consists of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So one can simply hear the chanting of glories of the Lord, or can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn. Then one can eat the remnants of food offered to God. Nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, never mind what. Even a leaf, a flower, a bit of a fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person regardless of social position and will be accepted if offered with love. There are many instances in history. Simply by tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages like Sanat Kumar became great devotees. Therefore, the devotional service is very nice and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to Him.
So very easy process, can be happily performed. As Prabhupada is saying, one simply has to sit. Simply by sitting, one can learn. Then one can eat the remnants of food offered to God, nice palatable dishes. So simple. As Prabhupada says in many lectures, one does not have to stand upside down, pull the nose, and do all the funny things. So very simple. So again, taking the same example, when these devotees were in Surat, so So they would get up in the morning. Srila Prabhupada had small Radha Krishna deities in his room. And they would have Mangalarti. 4:30 they would have Mangalarti. Then immediately after Mangalarti, Srila Prabhupada would give class, and then they would chant and all that. Then they would go on Harinam. So morning they would go on Harinam, and then they would come back, and then they would relax for some time, and then again they would have lunch. So nice meal. These hosts, Mr. Jhariwala, Gujarati, very pious Gujarati man. Prabhupada, of course, was so happy. He said, he's Vaishnav. So they would prepare nice, wonderful prasad for these devotees. So many different items prepared with so much of love and devotion. And so these devotees would have nice prasad. Then again, then afternoon, then again they would go out on Harinam. So they'll go down Harinam and then come back in the evening and then again have prasad, and then again Prabhupada would give a talk. So that was their life. So daily they were doing Harinam for almost 6 to 7 hours. That was the only business. There was nothing else to do. Just Harinam. 6 to 7 hours Harinam. So Giraj Maharaj writes, after doing Harinam daily for 7 hours, one cannot be in the material world. So powerful. Because Harinam means what? Krishna. That means one is continuously associating with Krishna directly. That is it. Continuously associating with Krishna. So now all these are very powerful ways actually of purifying oneself. And that's how these devotees in the association of Prabhupada. So Yamuna Mataji writes that experience in Surat was the ultimate experience. Huh? Yes, we're talking about that book. So everything was so perfect. They had the perfect acharya, the perfect process, Harinam. Joyfully performed. Of course, the austerities were also there, but then the point is simple process. The only thing is one has to stick to it. Sometimes it may not be so happy. When they were staying in Delhi, so at that time, they were in that Dharmashala, they were staying. There were rats as big as cats. So Giraj Maharaj says, white rats, huge with pink eyes. He said, never seen them before. But then, and so these devotees would be sleeping in their sleeping bags, and these rats would be walking, jumping all over them. So they had to go through those austerities also. But then if one sticks to the process at any cost, then yes, then one can experience the happiness. And the process is avyayam, susukam kartum avyayam. Avyayam means what? Inexhaustible. So the process always remains the same, and that is what Prabhupada is explaining in the next paragraph. Somebody read the next paragraph.
It is said here that this devotional service is eternally existing. It is not as the Mayavadi philosopher claim, although they sometimes take to so-called devotional service, their idea is that as long as they are not liberated, they will continue their devotional service. But at the end, when they become liberated, they will become one with God. Such temporary time-serving devotional service is not accepted as pure devotional service. Actual devotional service continues even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual planet in the kingdom of God, he is also engaged there in serving the Supreme Lord. He does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord.
Okay, so that's the meaning of avyayam. So unlike the Mayavadis who say once we become liberated, finished. Then we become God, then there's no need of serving God. But in devotional service, the means and the end are the same. So even after liberation, eternally one continues the service. So whatever we are rendering now, devotional service, the service continues. So that is the meaning of avyayam. Okay, fine. We'll take a break and continue. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So now, talking about Pratyaksha Vagamam, Srila Prabhupada speaking on this verse, he describes that Pratyaksha Vagamam. Okay, read.
Pratyaksha avagamam. Pratyaksha means directly. Avagamam dharmyam. If you are hungry and if you are given very nice, nutritious, palatable food, you haven't got to take any certificate from others. You will understand yourself. Yes, I am now feeling strength. I am now feeling energy. This is called Pratyaksha Avagam Dharmyam. Similarly, if you take to Krishna consciousness, that is the process, then you will feel automatically how you are satisfied.
So Prabhupada is giving this example, a well-known example from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, 11 to 42, right? Tushti, Pushti, Kshudapai. Yes, so when one eats, there are three effects that are seen. Tushti, Pushti, Kshudapai. So Tushti is satisfaction, Pushti is nourishment, and Kshudapai is cessation of hunger. So as Prabhupada is saying, when one eats, one understands oneself, how one is feeling satisfied, nourished. Nobody else needs to come and tell, Prabhu, now please stop eating. Somebody needs to tell? Or sometimes it happens. So, but one gets the experience oneself. So similarly, the effects of devotional service also can be directly perceived. So Tushti, Pushti, Kshudapaya have got three analogous counterparts in devotional service. What are they? So Tushti is analogous to Bhakti. Satisfaction takes the form of Bhakti or loving devotional service. So to the degree one has Bhakti, to that degree one can feel satisfaction. That is why Tushti is compared to Bhakti. Savai pumsam parodharmo yato bhakti radokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Suprasidati means? Suprasidati means? Satisfaction. Satisfaction at all levels, body, mind, soul. So at all levels one can feel satisfied when there is bhakti. That means one is practicing devotional service with love. How that loving devotional service is manifested? Ahaituki apratiyata. So when one is practicing without any motivations, without any interruption, so when that quality of devotional service is there, then one can experience satisfaction. Because when Krishna is satisfied, the soul is also satisfied. Simple science. Prahlad Maharaj's example is what? When the face is decorated, the reflection of the face in the mirror is automatically decorated. There's no need to do something separate. So similarly, when one practices devotional service in such a way that Krishna is satisfied, then one automatically feels satisfied. That is the science. This pastime was shared by His Grace Jagat Purush Prabhu, one of Prabhupada's disciples. I don't know if I told you this before. So he was serving at Juhu, and Those days, there was only that tin shed. So those who have read Giriraj Maharaj's book, he describes. There's only the tin shed. And so his service was cooking Rajbhog. And so one day, it was May or June, like this time. So now this place is very nice. It's concrete with fans. But if the same summer, if you're in tin shed, have you experienced tin shed? If you want experience now also, you can go to Kunj Bihari. There are still some tin sheds there behind. So if in summertime, at noon time, if you go to the tin shed, it's so hot, like furnace. And on top of that, this devotee has to cook. There's already enough heat. One more additional heat, the flame. So you can just imagine. And these American devotees, they have no experience of so much of heat. So he was cooking, and then he finished the cooking, he washed all the vessels, he kept them totally exhausted. He was sweating, totally exhausted. And not like nowadays, all our kitchens, they have exhaust fans and this and that. Those, nothing, just a tin shed. So he was totally exhausted. So totally exhausted, he went and fell flat to take some rest. But anyway, what? That also all tin shed only. So anyways, as he was taking rest, so somehow he describes this. So he saw in the corner of the room, he saw there was one photo of Radha Ras Bihari. And so he was thinking that if I am feeling so hot, then how much hot these lordships must be feeling. So thinking like that, he took a charmer and he began to wave the charmer just to give some cool breeze to the deities, to that photo. But still, he was seeing that this is Radha Ras Bihari. And so this was his experience which he describes, that as he was offering the charmer, he felt as if cool breezes are coming towards him. And then very soon all his exhaustion went away and he felt refreshed. So this is what he says. So by serving the Lord, one automatically feels satisfied. So the only thing that is required is there has to be a quality of devotional service in a way that is pleasing to Guru and Krishna. So when that quality of devotional service is there, by which Krishna is satisfied, then one automatically becomes satisfied. So this is the proof as to what is the quality of devotional service I am performing. So the next is Pushti. That he compares it to Paresha Anubhava. Para Isha Anubhava. Means what? A direct experience of the Supreme Lord. Para Isha Anubhava. Direct experience of the Supreme Lord. So when one gets an experience of the Supreme Lord, in terms of realizations, one can experience how the Supreme Lord is reciprocating with one's devotional service. Right? All of us get some experiences, right? of how the Lord is reciprocating with one's prayers, with one's devotional service. So when one gets such experiences, that gives great faith in one's practices. So one understands that devotional service is not simply a mythology, it is not something abstract, but then the Supreme Lord exists, the Supreme Lord reciprocates with one's practices of devotional service. So when one understands all this, then that gives one great faith, and that faith nourishes one's devotional service. So that is why the Pushti is analogous to Pareshanu Bhava, a direct experience of the Supreme Lord. And when these two things happen, when one gets tushti and pushti in one's devotional service, the third thing is obvious. So cessation of hunger is compared to virakti, detachment from everything that's material. So when one gets great nourishment in the practice of devotional service, one is feeling great satisfaction, then automatically one develops detachment from everything that's material. So that is what Prabhupada is writing. So these effects of the practice of devotional service can be directly experienced. That is why it is pratyaksha bhagamam. So each one can experience for oneself. And I'm sure all of us definitely have some experience. If we commit some offenses to someone, I'm sure we experience the effects, right? What happens? Yes. Yes, we experience chanting, so many different thoughts are coming. We can't chant properly. Correct? So it's a direct experience. It's not something which is totally abstract. That is meaning of pratyaksha bhagamam. And of course, as we were discussing in the Madhur Kadamani also, so many effects one can experience for oneself. So that is the meaning of pratyaksha bhagamam. Okay? Okay, so this is the second verse, which is describing various aspects of pure devotional service. Okay, read the last paragraph. Prabhupada is nicely summarizing everything.
As will be seen in Bhagavad Gita, actual devotional service begins after liberation. After one is liberated, when one is situated in the Brahman position, Brahma Bhuta, one's devotional service begins. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param.
So what devotional service is that?
Pure devotional service.
Yes, that is on the Bhava and the Prem
Prema
platform. That is actual devotional service. So before that, what is that devotional service?
That is also pure devotional service, but the sadhana level, that is spontaneous.
Yes, so that is apprenticeship. So it is still devotional service only, but it is in practice. So it's not perfect. So real devotional service is perfect devotional service on the liberated platform. Huh? Huh? No, Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti is mixed devotional service. No, no. Pure devotional service. Before also it is pure devotional service. Afterwards also it is pure devotional service. So when one is initially one is trying to practice pure devotional service, and later on it becomes spontaneous pure devotional service. Both are pure devotional service. So initially one is trying to become free from the material desires, one is trying to become free from the contamination of jnana and karma. So when one is sincerely trying, so that is also pure devotional service. So we are not talking about mixed devotional service. No, pure devotional service. But initially, one requires to put endeavor. But later on, when one comes to the liberated platform, it becomes spontaneous. So that is on Bhava and Prem. But both are pure devotional service. Prabhupada's famous analogy of
Lawyer in practice and
yes, raw mango and ripe mango. It is mango only, but still there's a difference in the taste. So similarly, it is pure devotional service, but still there's a difference. Okay.
No one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by executing Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or any other yoga independently. By these yogic methods, one may make a little progress towards Bhakti Yoga, but without coming to the stage of devotional service, one cannot understand what is the personality of Godhead. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed that when one becomes purified by executing the process of devotional service, especially by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from realized souls, then you can understand the signs of Krishna or the signs of God. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata. When one's heart is cleansed of all nonsense, then one can understand what God is. Thus, the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness is the king of all education and the king of all confidential knowledge. It is the purest form of religion and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. Therefore, one should adopt it.
Okay. Any questions? Huh. Hmm.
We are practicing day-to-day life, but we don't feel that change, that there is some heart is purified and all that. So how we can hope that it will get purified by practicing this?
So why are you sitting here?
With the faith that it will get purified by following this path.
That is correct. But then the very fact that we are sitting here goes to show what? So if there was no purification, no taste, then why we are sitting here? Correct? The very fact that we have, and so many of you have given up some big jobs and education and so many things, and sleeping in this congested place out here. So why? And you're still continuing. Why? That means there is some experience of taste, right? Because of some experience, therefore we are able to continue. And so therefore, if we continue, then there will be more experience. So nobody can say that I have no experience. If there was no experience, why in the first place we're here? Right. Proof of the pudding is in the eating. Huh? Any other question? Okay, the meaning of that is proof of the pudding is in the eating. The meaning is, you know, so if we give a 1 hour lecture on how tasty gulab jamun is, so similarly we can give lecture on the importance of holy name. But how will you know that the gulab jamun is tasty? Only after you eat you will understand, right? Simply by hearing the recipe, it may be first class recipe, but you keep on hearing, how much sense it will make? It seems to be good, but so similarly, so only when one actually begins the process of devotional service, then one gets the experience. That is the point. Any other question? Good, everyone is satisfied. Good, third verse. Okay, by the way, so the title of the section is what? Title of the section is what? First 3 verses. Yes, qualifications and disqualifications for hearing. So now in the second verse, what is the qualification that's told? First verse qualification was non-envious. So in the second verse, what is the qualification to? Results of knowledge. So what's the qualification? So anyways, so some devotees give the understanding that here the word Rajavidya, Rajaguhyam is given. So the word Raja, king. Raja means king, correct? So what is the qualification or the quality of the king? So one of the qualities of the king is that he is very magnanimous. Correct? He is very magnanimous. So kings, they take care of all their citizens. King cannot be selfish, correct? The king cannot be selfish. The king he has to take care of all his praja, all the citizens, all the living entities within his kingdom. He has to see that they are happy and all that. So similarly, one of the qualifications to practice devotional service is to be broad-minded, Mahatma, Mahan Atma means what? Broad-minded. So like Brahmana, opposite of Brahmana is Kripana. Kripana means, yes, miserly person, selfish person. So somebody who is selfish or somebody who is selfish, somebody who's in the bodily concept, right? Somebody who's in the bodily concept of life is always thinking of I and mine. So such a selfish person cannot practice devotional service. So one has to become broad-minded, Mahatma, selfless. So the more one becomes selfless, the more one becomes qualified to practice devotional service. So if one is always thinking in terms of I and mine, then one will be selfishly attached to one's own sense gratification. Then how can one try to please Krishna's senses? So if one wants to please Krishna's senses, one has to become what? Selfless. Selfless. Thinking less of the self, of oneself, but thinking more about the super soul, the Supreme Lord. So that's one of the qualifications in this verse. Okay, in the third verse, one more qualification is to Ashadhadana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. First paragraph.
The faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional service. That is the purport of this verse. The faith is curated by association with devotees. Unfortunate people, even after hearing all the evidence of Vedic literature from great personalities, still have no faith in God. They are hesitant and cannot stay fixed in devotional service of the Lord. Thus, faith is a most important factor for progress in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that faith is the complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, one can achieve all perfection. That is real faith. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yatha tarormula nisechanena tripyanti tatskanda bhujopasaka prapacha yathendriyanam tathaiva sarvanam chukete. By giving water to the root of a tree, one satisfied branches, twigs, and leaves. And by supplying food to the stomach, and one satisfy all the senses of the Lord. Similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfy all demigods and all other living entities. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith.
Okay. So here the third qualification is told, and that is faith. So if one does not have faith, ashradhana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa. Here the word dharma indicates devotional service. You can see in the word to word, proper translates dharma as towards the process of religion. And that is, of course, in this context, the word dharma refers to pure devotional service. So one does not have faith in the process of pure devotional service, the result will be aprapyamam nivartante mrityu samsaravatmani. One cannot achieve the Supreme Lord. One will continue in the cycle of birth and death. So we are all well versed with the definition of faith. What's the definition? Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Koi Sudruda Nishay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Hoi. And how that faith is created? Yes, faith is created by association with devotees. That is a singular factor by which the faith can be increased, by association with those who have faith. So it is not simply by reading the Gita that one can develop that faith. One has to get the association. So again, if you have read the book Dancing White Elephants, so there he describes this pastime of Srila Prabhupada going to Indore. And there was this Gita Sammelan. And so Srila Prabhupada point of criticism there was, yes, no photo of Krishna, only lamb. And they invited him for what? Gita Jayanti. So Prabhupada was furious. So what is this? He said, even in some ordinary event, like some political event, they will keep some photo of Nehru, Gandhi. Now here this is Gita Sammelan, this is Gita Jayanti, and there is no photo of Krishna, only lamb. That means you have not understood the Gita. What is the purpose of the Gita? So one man, he was saying, but Swamiji, we have been having this lamp since Prabhupada cut him there only. He said, but Krishna also is there since so many years. He was trying to say, we are having this lamp since many years. Prabhupada said, Krishna is also. So Prabhupada was challenging them. He said, you have no faith in Krishna. Though you are reading Bhagavad Gita, you have no faith in Krishna. That is the whole problem. You don't know what is the purpose of the Gita. Anyway, that conversation is very interesting. You can read it. So, but that is the problem. So therefore, and then on the other hand, we can see that these Western devotees, so short interaction with Srila Prabhupada, and they develop so much of faith. So it's all based on the association. And these people, they have been reading the Gita only. Right? They've been reading the Gita, some sort of preaching or whatever they're doing. But still there's no faith in Krishna as a Supreme Lord. Why? No association with the pure devotee. That's our problem. So therefore that association is what really matters. And therefore it's very important that we get that right association. Association with someone who has faith. That is very important. And how that association has effects, it is not something which can be tangibly perceived. Prabhupada writes in 1.2.18 purport. What is 1.2.18? Famous verse? 1.2.18. Nashtaprayesha Badresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada writes one statement. He says, human reason fails to understand how by the association of devotees such effects can take place. Human reason fails to understand. You got it? Read the exact sentence.
Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, one gets gradual promotion to the path of devotion.
Human reason fails to understand. How by serving the person Bhagavad, the book Bhagavad, how one makes progress in devotional service. So it is not something which is so easily tangible. So just like, you go to the market, you pay 100 rupees, you get something, correct? Very tangible. Immediately you can see. But this, how association works, it's not so easily tangible, tangibly noticed. But then the effect may be gradual but definite, both positively and negatively. So if one does asatsang, then how that effect takes place also may not be noticed immediately. So initially everything begins with little small things only. One lecture or some little association with somebody from some other organization. What will happen? Little bit. I'll get some little nectar here and there. And that's what sometimes devotees think, and that's why they associate. But then slowly, gradually, the effect takes place. And big Maharathis have left. Not ordinary people, big Maharathis influencing hundreds of other devotees. They have left. Initially, one doesn't understand. But slowly, gradually, it takes place. And same thing applies to positive associations. And of course, the best example are again Prabhupada's disciples. So therefore, Prabhupada writes there, human reason fails to understand. We cannot understand how this works. It's very subtle. It's very subtle, but it works. It's beyond our comprehension how it works, but it works. Very powerful. And so therefore, it's very important to take that right. So therefore, Prabhupada is writing here, faith is created by association with devotees. So by associating with someone who has faith, one develops faith. And so that little faith that we all have in the practice of devotional service must be very carefully guarded, fencing. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami is speaking about that fencing of the Bhakti Lata. And what is that fencing compared to? Yes, association of devotees, and within that association, practicing the rules and regulations of devotional service. That is the fencing. That is what will give us protection of our practices. So, Prabhupada is concluding this paragraph by saying, therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, the personality of God. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. So to the degree that conviction is there, then to that degree one has faith. And in the entire next paragraph, Prabhupada is basically speaking about the categories of devotees on the basis of faith, as we all know, Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam. As he says, now the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. There are three divisions of Krishna conscious men. And a third class are those who have no faith, even if they're officially engaged in devotional service, they cannot achieve the highest perfection stage. Most probably they'll slip after some time. Okay, so he's describing those three categories, which is based upon the development of faith. That entire subject will be discussed in great details in Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion. So therefore, I'm not discussing that here. So towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, faith in Krishna is also divided into three stages and described in Srimad Bhagavatam. First class attachment, second class attachment, third class attachment are also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto. Those who have no faith, even after hearing about Krishna and the excellence of devotional service, who think that it is simply eulogy, find the path very difficult, even if they're supposedly engaged in devotional service. For them, there's very little hope of gaining perfection. Thus, faith is very important in the discharge of devotional service. So when one has faith, then one very easily accepts the process, one strictly follows the process, then one will get the benefit. If one does not have faith, then one will think, what is the need to practice all this? Okay, I'll practice some things, not practice other things. So everything depends on how much faith we have. If one has that strong faith, then it will reflect, that faith will reflect in the practice. Okay. So we often give this example. They're just like, so the students, they're ready to study from the 6th standard, they're ready to study for IIT, JEE. Why? Correct. They have full faith. If I study and then I get through this exam, then everything in life will be wonderful. They have faith. Therefore, they're ready to work for it because they have faith. So then the same thing applies here also. So when one has faith that this process of devotional service will give me the ultimate perfection of life, so then one will put one's full endeavor in practicing because one knows this is the supreme perfection. Nothing else is required in life, only pure devotional service. So when one has a full faith, then one is ready to apply oneself. All right, so this is qualification of faith. Any questions? What are? Oh, disqualification is the opposite things. Yes, envy, being in the bodily conception of life, selfish, not having sufficient faith. So then those are disqualifications. So we, huh? That's obvious, correct.
Question is like, one thing is like knowing the things which we hear in philosophy and from Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. Another thing is when we put into practice. So there is a kind of adhikar to practice something, and how to judge that, how much, like putting faith is one thing, and another is like how much adhikar I am having to realize it. Because many times we may have faith, but we cannot practice that. So how to differentiate that?
Can you give some example?
For example, I know that one should not find fault with anybody else, and we should not offend. But due course of the day, it happens. Or like one should try to chant as
Attentive.
yeah, like that.
So yes, so we know something theoretically, but one is not able to practice it perfectly because of lack of faith. Correct? So why everyone why one never misses a meal eating? Why one does not miss? Because we are convinced that if I eat, I will be healthy. Correct? Then one, because of that faith, then one practices. One regularly eats the meal because one has faith. If I eat, my body will be healthy. So similarly, when one has faith that yes, if I chant attentively, If I don't offend, then I will progress nicely in devotional service. So the only thing is the theory has to be transformed into realization. And to the degree one has realization, that means more realization means more faith. That is basically what is realization. So realization, realized knowledge means that it is not simply theoretical, but it is with experience that one has conviction. Proper simple examples. A small child, he wants to put the finger in fire. Why? Okay, that's one thing. The fire is something interesting. And? Huh? Yes, he does not have sufficient experience of getting burnt by the fire. He's ignorant. He doesn't have experience, sufficient experience of getting burnt. So then when he gets the experience of getting burnt by the fire, then what happens? He's convinced. He's convinced that this fire is dangerous. Now, will you voluntarily ever put your finger in fire? No. Why? Yes. Because of the previous experience, one is convinced. So similarly, when through experience one is convinced, and that conviction, when it is not covered over again, then it becomes realization. So I offend, then I go through some experience, correct? I lose some taste. I feel miserable. And we all go through that experience. Then what happens? Then Maya covers. Then that experience, that realization is lost. It's not so deep. That realization is not so deep. So therefore one gets covered over again. So basically, it is the covering of Maya which makes us forget the previous experiences. Correct? That is avaranatmika shakti. Avaran. So when will the avaran, the covering, not take place? When will the covering not take place? That's correct. Devi Shugunamai Mama Maya Duratya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Meta. So we had that whole discussion. Who can control Maya? What is that? Vishnur eva na samshaya. Mukti pradata sarvesham. Vishnur eva na samshaya. Eva. Eva means only. So by surrender to Krishna, when the covering of Maya does not take place, then one is convinced. The conviction is not covered. Then that experience remains. Conviction remains. So then next time when I tend to offend, next time when I tend to offend someone or commit any offense, because the realization is not covered, then I be careful, because that realization has not been covered. Prema bhakti yahan hoite, avidya vinash. So the ignorance, avidya, that is the covering of Maya. So when to the degree one has taken shelter of Krishna, then, and Krishna protects those realizations. And because of that protection of Krishna, then one is careful. because the realization is protected. But if I'm not taken that much shelter of Krishna, then the realization gets covered once again by the influence of Maya. Then again I commit the mistake. Again I commit. So that's what happens. So therefore, so basically, it all depends on how serious and sincere we are in taking shelter of Krishna and practicing devotional service. And when we are sincere and serious, then Krishna is pleased. Then one is not affected by Maya. Then one's realizations become strong convictions, because then it is not simply on the intellectual platform, it is the knowledge of the soul that is awakened. It's an awakening of the soul. The soul is what? Sat, Chit, Ananda. The soul is full of knowledge. Soul is always full of knowledge. But now what's the problem? Covering. So when that covering is removed, so basically, in Nectar of Devotions, so we study that how when Shuddha Sattva descends into the heart on the platform of Bhava, the Shuddha Sattva is a combination of Chit and Ladini. Combination of Chit potency, Ladini potency is Shuddha Sattva. So when the Chit potency is awakened, then Avidya cannot be there. Then that is awakening of the knowledge of the soul. Then that cannot be covered. So therefore, on the platform of Bhava, normally one does not fall down, because the Chit potency is awakened. Then there is no question of covering. ठीक है?
Situated in faith, sometimes because of his it's mentioned that sometimes he may, if because of he has heard something from somewhere, he may go astray, but it's not that he leaves devotion service, he comes back. That is how it is defined. And then here in this paragraph of this chapter, third chapter, maybe second paragraph, Prabhupada mentions twice there are three divisions of Krishna consciousness, man. In the latter three, the set of three, Prabhupada mentions about specifically about three people having faith of different levels. In the initially, Prabhupada mentions only of one person, the third division only in the initial description. He says third division is where people don't have any faith. If you can, Prabhupada gives two times the sets. First set only starts with third and ends with third. It doesn't.
See, basically in the beginning he says there are three divisions of Krishna conscious men. Correct? Three divisions of Krishna conscious men. That is what he says initially. And then later on he says what?
As far as development of faith is
Faith
concerned,
in Krishna is also divided into three stages. So three types of Krishna conscious men and three types of faith.
This is faith wala is understandable, Prabhuji. I'm telling you, division wala is like what exact division, Prabhuji?
Same thing. So Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttam.
But Prabhuji, initial
Okay, so now what is the difference is? So the difference is there is three divisions of Krishna conscious men and three divisions of faith. So there is a technical difference between Adhikar and Adhikari. So three divisions of Krishna conscious men are the three Adhikars, like Kanishta Adhikar, Madhyam Adhikar, and Uttam Adhikar. And Adhikari is the qualification, or the three types of faith that he's talking about. So one may be qualified but one may not have the qualification. Wait. So one may be an Uttam Adhikari, but one may not be an Uttam Adhikar. The example is given that just like one has passed the IIT entrance exam. Now he is qualified to become an engineer. Is he an engineer? No. He is qualified, but he's not an engineer. You get the point? So similarly, one may have the qualification, but is still not on that platform. So three types of faith refer to three types of qualification. And the three types of men refer to those who are qualified. So what do you think? Obviously, the qualification comes first, then one becomes qualified. So one may have the qualification to become a Madhyam Adhikari. One may have the qualification. That means he has the faith, but now on the basis of that faith, he has to practice, and then he will actually be on that platform. That is why the differentiation is.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, one last question.
Hare Krishna ji. Prabhuji, in a context of envious, can we say like this, if we are envious to any others, then we are indirectly envious to Lord Krishna?
Correct.
Because whatever goods quality,
That
or,
point is yes.
or
Prabhupada
if we are glorifying others, means we indirectly glorifying Lord Krishna.
correct, because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore,
Yes.
if we are envious of anyone in this world, we are actually indirectly envious of Krishna. That's correct. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Thank you very much. So we continue tomorrow.